Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. My name is Callum Avery, and if you had asked me a year ago whether my marriage was built on solid ground, I would have said yes without hesitation. I wasn't naive, but I believed in the simple things: loyalty, kindness, shared humor, and honesty. My wife, Marley Quinn, was sharp-tongued, quick-witted, and often a little too bold for her own good, but I always admired her spark. At least I thought I did, until the night her spark lit a fire I couldn't put out. The evening started like any other gathering at our friend's place. Warm lights, soft music, the clinking of glasses, the muted laughter of people loosening up after long weeks. I wasn't a party person, but Marley was. I went because she liked having me beside her. Or maybe because I liked thinking she did. Her sister, Juniper Quinn, everyone called her June, arrived later than everyone else. June was the opposite of Marley. Calm where Marley was loud, soft where Marley was sharp, warm where Marley was playful to the point of cruelty. People gravitated toward June effortlessly. She had that gentle steadiness you couldn't imitate, even if you tried. But the moment that shattered everything didn't begin with June. It began with a joke Marley thought was harmless. We were gathered around a tall patio heater on the backyard deck, sipping drinks, telling stories, letting the evening soften any leftover edges from our work weeks. Someone asked Marley how we first met, and she launched into her usual dramatic retelling. How I supposedly tripped over my own confidence trying to impress her. I smiled, played along because that was our rhythm. She teased. I rolled my eyes. Everyone laughed. No harm done. But then she kept going. And honestly, she said, swirling her drink like the glass itself needed entertainment, sometimes I think I should have picked my ex instead. He was more my type, less emotionally lactose intolerant. People laughed. I felt the familiar sting of being the punchline, but I stayed steady. I'd been married long enough to know Marley didn't always think before she spoke. I wasn't going to make it a scene, but she wasn't done. Seriously, she added, leaning her shoulder into mine like it softened the blow. I regret choosing him over my ex sometimes. But hey, we all make mistakes, right? The group laughed louder this time. But it wasn't playful laughter. It was the kind you hear when someone realizes they probably shouldn't be laughing, but the moment already escaped them. My chest tightened, but outwardly I stayed calm. I'd spent years mastering that. Quiet patience, steady tone, unfazed expressions. But inside something small cracked. And once it cracked, it didn't stop. The joke wasn't funny anymore. She wasn't teasing me. She was humiliating me. I didn't react immediately. I just let a slow smile cross my face, the kind that never reaches the eyes. I regret choosing you over your sister, I said lightly, almost conversationally. The laughter died instantly. People froze, eyes wide, breaths caught midair. Marley's smile faltered, her expression twisting between disbelief and indignation. But before she could speak, before she could spin it back on me with her usual sharpness, June, sweet, soft-spoken June, took a small step forward, tilted her head, and said clearly enough for everyone to hear, "We can fix that." The world didn't just pause, it stopped. Everyone stared, unsure whether they had misheard her or whether June had just detonated the evening with a single sentence. Marley blinked rapidly, her face draining of color. "June," she hissed under her breath. "What the hell does that mean?" June didn't waver. She didn't laugh. She didn't act like she was joking. "It means," she said calmly, "that you shouldn't joke about regretting your husband when someone else might see the value in him." A few people murmured, shifting awkwardly. The tension was thick enough to touch. My heart pounded, not out of excitement, but disbelief. I hadn't expected backup. Certainly not from June. Marley, desperately trying to salvage the moment, forced a laugh. "Oh, come on. You both are being dramatic. It was a joke." "It wasn't," June replied quietly. "Not to him, and not to anyone who heard you." Marley turned to me then, eyes stormy, searching for a reaction she could control. Anger, embarrassment, anything familiar. But I didn't give her any of it. I just looked at her the way someone looks at a painting they've stared at for years and suddenly sees differently. "It's fine," I said calmly. "You made your point." But the truth was, her point had never been clearer. And neither had mine. June's words, gentle but fearless, hung in the air long after the conversation stumbled forward again. Marley kept close to me after that, touching my arm, forcing small talk, overcompensating. But the damage had already settled deep. Because sometimes, the moment that breaks a marriage doesn't come from shouting or betrayal. It comes from a joke too sharp, too real, spoken to the wrong audience on the wrong night. And from a sister who didn't think it was funny. The ride home was silent, but not the kind of silence that settles naturally after a long night. It was tight, tense, swollen with words Marley didn't know how to say and words I no longer felt like offering her. She kept glancing at me, short, sharp looks, hoping to catch an expression she recognized. But my face stayed still. It wasn't intentional. I was just tired. Tired in a way I couldn't explain out loud. When we finally pulled into the driveway, she locked the car doors with a stiff click and turned toward me. "Callum, seriously?" she began, her voice already defensive. "What the hell was that? You embarrassed me." I almost laughed, not out of humor, but out of disbelief. "I embarrassed you?" I said softly. "You joked about regretting choosing me, in front of your friends." "It was a joke. People joke like that all the time." "Maybe, but you didn't mean it like a joke." She looked away, her jaw tightening. A flicker of guilt flashed in her expression, but she buried it quickly, replacing it with irritation. "You didn't have to bring June into it," she muttered. "You brought your ex into it," I replied. She exhaled sharply and threw open the car door. "I'm not having this conversation out here." "Fine by me." I wasn't looking to fight. Fighting meant you still cared enough to win. I wasn't sure I cared about anything in that moment except the truth settling inside me. Somewhere along the way, the woman I married forgot how to protect the parts of me that were soft. I didn't need perfection. I needed respect. Tonight, she'd peeled back the last layer of that illusion. Inside the house, she paced the living room while I set my keys on the counter. "So now June is what? Interested in you?" she scoffed. "That's ridiculous." I didn't answer, mainly because I didn't know how to answer. I hadn't processed June's words yet. But Marley took my silence as confirmation. "Oh my God," she snapped. "Don't tell me you liked what she said." "She stood up for me," I said calmly. "That's more than you did." Marley froze. For once, she didn't have a comeback ready. She pressed her lips together, her eyes darting back and forth as if searching for a version of this situation she could control. Finally, she said, "You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I'm just finally reacting." That landed. I saw it in the way her shoulders dropped, the way her expression softened. Not with empathy, but with fear. Fear that she had pushed too far without realizing the edge was right behind her. She didn't apologize. That wasn't her style. Instead, she tried to smooth everything over the only way she knew how, by pretending the night hadn't happened. "Let's just go to bed," she murmured, sounding exhausted. "You can," I said. "I'm going to stay up." She hesitated at the bottom of the stairs, watching me like she wanted to say something else. Something real, something sincere. But sincerity required vulnerability, and Marley rarely touched that territory. Not even for me. She went upstairs without another word. I sat in the quiet for a long time, staring at nothing, thinking about everything. About the slow erosion of jokes that hurt and comments that cut. About the quiet way a marriage can crack. Not with a dramatic betrayal, but with tiny fractures stacked on top of each other. And I thought about June. I didn't want to. It wasn't appropriate, and I wasn't looking to replace anyone. But her words echoed louder than they should have. Someone else might see the value in him. Not flirtation. Not invitation. Just truth. The kind you only speak when you're tired of watching someone you care about be treated poorly. It was nearly 2 in the morning when my phone buzzed. A message. From June. "I'm sorry for tonight. You didn't deserve that." Simple. Honest. Gentle. Everything Marley's apology would never be. I typed back slowly. Thank you. I appreciate it. She replied instantly. If you ever need a place to talk, or just breathe, you know where I am. I didn't answer after that. Not because I didn't want to, but because I needed to sit with myself first. I needed clarity, not comfort. And the truth was already forming quietly inside me. The next morning, Marley was overly affectionate, touching my arm, laughing too loudly, making breakfast she hadn't made in months. But none of it erased the look in her eyes when she realized I wasn't bending this time. Her charm couldn't patch the hole she'd poked through her own marriage. While she fussed around the kitchen, my phone buzzed again. This time I didn't have to check to know who it was. I felt the message before I read it. June, take care of yourself today, Callum. A simple reminder. Soft, steady, kind. The kind of care I hadn't felt from my wife in a very, very long time. And that's when I realized something I hadn't been ready to admit before. The moment Marley joked about regretting choosing me was the moment she made it clear she'd forgotten my worth. But the moment her sister spoke up, that was the moment I remembered it.